What about second breakfast?
Time for second breakfast.
What's up, everybody? Monster from Breakdowns for breakfast here with another second breakfast. Me, the wife, and one of the little monsters went and saw Skillet. Now, I've mentioned Skillet on the show a handful of times. They're probably my wife's, if not her favorite band, her top 5 or so. And we've seen Skillet plenty of times. But it's always a good show. They're a lot of fun live. I was trying to come up with the right terminology for Skillet's music. And the one that comes to my mind the most is arena rock. Now, when I say arena rock, I think a lot of people sort of associate that with butt rock. And yes, sort of. But what I mean more specifically is they sound like songs that should be played in arenas, like football stadiums and baseball games and stuff. Because, I mean, a lot of the songs have titles like Invincible and Rise and The Resistance, and they have these very like fist pumpy kind of things going on in a lot of their songs, which makes for a very fun show because they have these big bombastic songs, but they also put on a good show. They're very energetic and they're a lot of fun. Now, we've seen them in multiple locations. We've seen them in big arenas. We've seen them in smaller venues. And this particular show was a smaller venue. We saw them at Piedmont Hall in Greensboro, which is on the grounds of it was the Greensboro Coliseum. Now it's called First Horizon Coliseum, I believe. And it's like the small music hall that's sort of adjacent to the Coliseum. I looked it up. I want to say it holds a little over 2,000 people. And I would say there was probably close to 2,000 people there. We got there probably about an hour before the show started, give or take. And I remember thinking on the way that, you know, there'll probably be a good amount of people, but I don't expect it to be packed or anything. It was pretty packed. There was a lot of people there. We actually had to wait about a block on the sidewalk to get in a big line of people, which is cool. I wasn't sure. See, because Skillet right now is actually on tour with Shinedown, and Skillet's one of Shinedown's openers, and I think they played in Charlotte the night before or a couple nights before, and then they played in Greensboro, which that's about an hour and a half apart from one another. I think the date was Friday, July 29th, 30th, whatever the last Friday in July was. And I remember looking at tickets to go see Shinedown as well, because you know what? Shinedown's not one of those bands that I like to listen to very often, but we've seen them live as well, and they are really fun live. They put on a great show as well. But it was in Charlotte, and it was a weeknight. It was just a little tougher to do. So me and my wife and my 7-year-old decided to go to this instead. And Piedmont Hall is a really cool venue. It's basically exactly what it says. It's like a hallway. It's like a big straight line. And the top, when you first walk in, you're kind of at one level, and then about halfway through you go down a couple of steps and you're kind of in a lower section, and that's where the stage is. So it's kind of nice. You can stand in the back and still see the stage pretty good, because most of the people are going to be down on the floor, which is, you know, a few steps down. We actually did go down, and we were kind of like up against the wall, because on either side, if you don't go down the stairs and you go to your left or your right, they have sort of a bar area where you can get drinks and stuff. And they actually had tables set up, and I think you can actually like reserve a table. And I was telling the wife that maybe next time we go to a show there, depending on price and all that kind of stuff, that might be the ticket right there. If it's not that much more expensive, and that way, you know, you're a little bit elevated too, and you can have a better sight line at the stage. Because that was my biggest concern, was we had our 7-year-old with us. But she did great. We like I said, we were on the floor, but kind of closer to the back part of it. And we were up against the wall where that bar is. So there was a little ledge you could kind of like lean up against. And my wife, what a trooper, she held our 7-year-old pretty much the entire time. I offered to help. I really did. I swear I did. But neither one of them would take my help, so it's fine. One of the funniest moments was when my wife, who had been holding our 7-year-old for hours at this point, I tapped my 7-year-old on the shoulder and I was like, hey, why don't you let me hold you for a little bit? And she was like, no, Mom's got this. I was like, okay, whatever you guys say. But so anyway, so we stand in line for a while, we get in, and we kind of find our spot, and then the first band plays, and they were called Set for the Fall, I think is what they were called. Local band from I think Fayetteville, North Carolina, which is a couple hours from Greensboro. They were fine. I'd never heard them before. Like I said, I think they are like local to this area or regional. They are a Christian band as well. I'm thinking maybe they had a connection with the guys in Skillet to get this gig. But they were fine. Like I said, I'd never heard of them before. Whatever. And then after them was Skillet. Now, as I said before, I've seen Skillet in a huge coliseum. I've seen them at venues this size. I think we've actually seen them there at Piedmont Hall before. And this was probably the best sounding concert I have been to in a long time. And I don't know if it was just the shape of the room, the band was just mixed perfectly. I don't know exactly, but it was loud and it was powerful, but it wasn't so loud that your ears hurt. Like, none of us had stuff in our ears, and it was not super loud. You could hear everything very clearly. You could pick out the vocals, the guitars, and everything. It was really nice. And it was a lot of fun. Saw a couple of my friends there. My friend Michelle, I know she listens to the show. If you hear this, it was cool seeing you there. She came over and hung out with me and my wife and my daughter for a couple minutes. I saw another one of my friends, Matthew, who I don't see very often, but we run into each other at shows like this on a fairly regular basis. So shout out to him as well. The crowd overall was very cool. I mean, Skillet usually, as a Christian band, most people know that, and I think that the vast majority of people that come to a Skillet concert are going to be more of the good-natured type. A lot of kids. There were kids younger than my 7-year-old. We thought about taking our 4-year-old as well, but I think that might have been just a little bit too much for her, because my 7-year-old, she's been to, this is, I think, I want to say maybe her third bigger show. Like, she saw, I know her first show was 311, and then we took her to see Baby Metal with Black Veil Brides and Bloodywood, and there might have been something else. I can't remember. But then now Skillet. She's come to see me play a handful of times, but that doesn't count. That's just going to see Dad play. That's not a concert with a cool band, But what was really funny was near the end of the set, they played Monster, which is obviously one of their most popular songs. We look over and my 7-year-old is asleep. She fell asleep. It is so loud, and there's, lights are flashing, they're shooting smoke up in the air and all kinds of stuff. She's asleep. It was so funny. It was cracking us up. My wife got a video of it and stuff. But yeah, Skillet was really good. They played, if you know Skillet's music at all, you know a song or two. They definitely played those songs. Did a really, like I said, they just sounded so good. Like, it was, and I was telling my wife, I was like, I don't know if it's just I've been playing in like a lot of these smaller venues here recently that I'm just hearing that sound all the time, that when I heard like this big, nice sound out of there, I was so impressed. But it just sounded really, really good. And the band was tight. The band was having fun. Even if you don't like Skillet all that much, I would say still try to see them live at some point, especially at a venue that size. Don't get me wrong, when they're on like a massive Coliseum stage and have that kind of production, they're great there too. Lots of fire. So in a big venue, they do fire. In a small venue, they do smoke. So at one point, John Cooper, the lead singer, came out and he had those like a big tank on his back and those like wristband shooter thingies, and it was like blasting smoke into the air and everything. It was really cool. At one song, they had Jen, the drummer. She sings a lot on a lot of the songs. She actually came out from behind the kit and just took the vocals, and they had a different guy playing drums. They do that a couple times throughout the night with John because he plays bass and sings. He'll give his bass to another guy, and he'll do a few songs while John just runs around as kind of a front man. A little bit of talking in between songs. They did talk about his faith a little bit and the power of music and healing and all that, and I thought it was really cool. Hey, as a Christian, I will always be a sucker for seeing a big, loud rock band talk a little bit about Jesus from the stage. I always think that's kind of cool. But yeah, they did great. It was a lot of fun. A lot of times when I do these videos, like a recap of seeing a show, something crazy happened, something hilarious happened. There's some wild story to tell. This ran so much smoother than I could have anticipated. Everything was right on time. We had a good spot where everybody could see, including my short wife and my 7-year-old kid. We could totally see the stage just fine. People around us were nice. Yeah, no problems at all. I would say two things. If you get a chance to see Skillet live in any capacity, I'd highly recommend it. They're a lot of fun. They put on a great show. And number two, if you get a chance to go see anybody, if you're in the North Carolina area, Piedmont Hall is a very cool venue. I feel like of all the places I've been to see live music around here, that's one of the better spots. I feel like it's standing room only, but you can usually find a good spot to get a straight line to the stage. And like I said, the sound was just so good. But yeah, let me know if you were there, if you like Skillet, you don't, whatever. And as usual, I hope you have a great day.